Engine 1 from Car 1. Car 1's on scene. Assuming command. Give me a C.A.N report.
Welcome, everybody, to the C.A.N report. Stickers, Mike Goldstein, Mazel Tov. Thank you all for tuning in. I have a great guest today, the owner of Redline Gear Cleaning. He is with us today, Mike Matros.
Matros, yep, Mike Matros.
Fantastic. Mike Matros of Redline Gear Cleaning is with us today. If you guys haven't, please click like, subscribe, make sure you are listening. Lets me know that you are enjoying the content. They're getting something out of it, and it helps me to keep going with this. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Mike, thank you so much for being on the C.A.N report. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. I tried to get a hold of you down when we went to FDIC. You were super busy, which of course everybody knows. You were cleaning a lot of gear for a lot of guys and women. And so there was no way I would be able to nail you down, but now we got it going on, and I'm happy to have you on here. Talk about your product, talk about who you are. And I'm just super excited to get to know everything about you.
Yeah, no, I love it. So yeah, FDIC was a wild event for sure. I'll dive into that a little bit more for sure.
Absolutely.
So I'm Mike Matros. I'm the president and founder of Redline. I'm also a 22-year career firefighter out of Sudbury, Massachusetts. Redline was built, established in 2019 when we cleaned our first set of gear in 2020. And, what we did is the whole goal is to make cleaning very easy process, because through the nonprofit I had, we were pushing a lot of grants towards extractors, towards different equipment and stuff like that. And when my own chief says your gear's got to get sent out and be cleaned, sure, chief, I'm all for it, being the, against cancer world. And he says it's going to be gone for a couple weeks. And on one breath, we're telling people to clean the gear all the time. And on the other side of the coin, it's a very cumbersome and process. So, I learned that the industry is lacking and we need to do a little bit better, where we need to have that ability to just have your gear cleaned immediately, back in service in the same day, just like we do our job. Our equipment needs to follow suit. So that's where Redline was born. Now, fast forward a couple of years, and we're a nationwide company operating in 15 different states with franchise locations all over the country that are all firefighter-owned and operated businesses.
Yeah, I saw that ad a while ago, and I saw it was on social media that you guys were opening up franchises around. That's incredible that you're able to make this business grow to a point that you actually have franchises. And it's not just even money making in my eyes. It's the fact that you now have franchises to help other departments throughout the states to get this gear cleaned quickly and efficiently. And I seen here in your bio, Mike, you gave a quick background of yourself. It says that here you have learning disabilities, but you hold 5 degrees and 3 different patents. Tell me about that.
Well, just like pretty much most firefighters, ADD, dyslexia, run the gamut in terms of the learning disabilities. And I'm always one of those guys that tells me you can't do something. I'm all right. I get you. I'm going to prove you wrong real fast. So that's kind of where the degrees come from, because growing up, I was told by my guidance counselor, my best option was frontline military, pull a trigger. And basically, the career path choice wasn't quite for me due to my learning disability. So I got a couple degrees, and my degrees, I really just enjoyed it. And then I started teaching fire science and got more degrees while getting into the college process. So, and then once this business started, I was able to get different patents issued on the truck. That was kind of cool to have, your name solidified as a patent inventor owner.
Now, what are the patents that you have?
So I have one patent is the utility patent on the truck itself, basically a washing machine used for cleaning and servicing firefighting gear as a mobile extraction unit. So if it's a washing machine and a water tank on a truck, it's technically in violation of the patent because it's that big. It's the first one to ever be filed of a truck that cleans firefighting gear. So that's our utility patent. We have another patent on our fresh water system that treats and manages the water coming in. So we have consistent water source, the water coming into the truck. And then we also have a secondary wastewater, or third patent on the opposite end of that patent, the wastewater coming off the truck to filter and process wastewater right on trucks. So our trucks have their own wastewater treatment processing plant built in right onto the truck.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I was going to ask what do you do with the dirty water? Like, how does that, be disposed of?
Yep. So after it gets washed, it goes through 9 different filters to the point where it comes out as just water. We can reuse the water if we want to. It comes out that clean, or it can be disposed of really anywhere because it's just water at that point. Anywhere you can put water, you can discharge our truck.
Wow. You really thought this through.
A lot of moving parts involved.
Very. Now, how big is your staff that you have in your location? Because you're based out of Massachusetts.
Yep. So our location out of this central location has about 15 or so employees here. We're not that big in terms of our corp, but we also do our own truck building. We do our own fabrication. So we have, a fabricator, an electrician, a plumber. We have a mechanic. So we have some additional jobs, and obviously some office functions. And then we have probably about 8 guys that are operating on the road all the time. So some of those guys do double duty. They'll be electrician and they'll also work out in the field for us too. They just fireman happens to be an electrician as well. So
now, the majority of guys that are firefighters, are they from your general area, or are they just from all over?
Yeah, from the general area. We have a few guys from Southbridge, Mass. We have a couple guys from other surrounding area fire departments, but pretty much everybody that works out in the field is all firefighters, and we only have 3 or 4 employees that are not firefighters, but they're just full time for us.
That's amazing. And you are a 22-year-old. Sorry, 20. I wish we were both 22, but that'd be nice. You are a 22-year career firefighter and a paramedic, and you're still doing that, correct?
Yeah, still doing my 2 days a week. I even try and pick up an overtime shift every now and then. So
how do you juggle all of that?
Good staff, really good team. So it becomes empowering when you step away from something and you let your team members really kind of run with it. It allows you to grow so much faster. It's one of those things that, like, I'm sure for you, if you were to have someone say, "Oh, let me take over the show," you would have a degree of ownership that you just want to feel comfortable with, right?
Right.
Well, being able to let go of that ownership and let people flourish actually allows me to be at the fire department, because 2 days a week I'm at the fire department. So I'm relying on them to do their job, not call me, no questions asked. And at the end result, I'm always end up impressed by what the employees pull off. And I find a lot of joy in stepping back and watching something unfold in front of you, or just giving someone a job and a task and letting them run with it.
Now, say you're coming off shift though, like say you like you said, you pull overtime, and how do you have any time to decompress? Like, are you jumping right into Redline after work, or again, do you have great staff where your staff they know that you just came off shift and you got your time with your family and things that need to be done around the house, and then you schedule yourself for the office?
Monday through Friday is pretty much go. I try not to work Redline over the weekends when I have to, because we work enough weekends at the fire department as it is. So Monday through Friday, I'll leave one job and go to the next kind of thing, But for the most part, we have a pretty good system. We plan it accordingly. Guys are doing jobs when they're not either coming off shift or scheduling, so it works. It's just chaotic, but it works.
Now, are you a first-generation firefighter, or is it in your blood? Is it in your family?
I am a first generation in terms of my immediate family. I have an uncle who's was a firefighter in FDNY, but I wasn't really all that close with him until just catching up with him at a family event after 9/11. And he was telling me all the stories and everything about the fire department. But short of that, first generation. My background, my father actually was retired. He came out of retirement to come work for Redline, but he was a CEO, big corporate business background. So I asked him to come work for the company, make sure our business side of things are squared away. That's where the franchising comes in, the ability to manage and maintain all those contracts and lawyers and stuff. I need the resources to do that.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you are leaning on your father with that expertise. That's actually an amazing thing to have. Not everyone could say their dad is a CEO or was a CEO of a large corporation, because the knowledge that he's got to have of that business sense of what needs to be done and how to get things done, it's got to be incredible.
It definitely is nice to have it, but at the same time, we also, I think, could form our own little TV show and give Paulie Jr. and Paulie Sr. a run for their money, where we're screaming at each other at the shop and throwing stuff at each other, and just totally different mindsets, but it works. But yeah, we definitely, that father-son dynamic works well.
I don't know if anyone realizes, but he's referring to Orange County choppers. We're kind of dating ourselves.
I forgot how many years ago that was.
Right. That is fantastic. Now, you also stated that you were the chair of, you ran the nonprofit Heroes Cup Foundation.
Yeah.
And what is that?
Yeah. So the Heroes Cup is something that I started and founded because it was originally designed just as a way to bring guys together from all over the country to raise money for the charities that they were passionate about through hockey. So it was just a way to get together with a bunch of my friends from around the country and say, I don't care who you're raising money for, do something for the good. Let's get together, let's raise some money, let's play some hockey. Well, that exploded really fast, and it became the largest first responder hockey tournament in the world.
Wow.
It's 100 it was like 120 teams, and we take over a facility in Marlborough that has 10 rinks under one roof, and we just make it a crazy weekend where guys are tailgating and having fun all weekend and doing good at the same time, because every team is competing and raising money for their charity. So not only are they competing on the ice, they're competing off the ice in terms of charitable dollars.
We're all very competitive, so that helps even more.
Exactly. It's just a win. You can give someone a leverage in terms of better ice time and, their own locker room because they raised $20,000 for the charity they're passionate about. That's a win for everybody, right?
I like that. So there's different levels to that. So if you raise so much, you get that certain VIP treatment in the locker room.
Yep. So
that's cool.
So I founded that event, and then 2 years ago I actually had to step down because it became so much of a monster event that between running that and running the business was just too much, and the business really needed my attention. So I passed the event down to a couple, two firefighter, husband and wife couple, both of them firefighters, and they took over the nonprofit. And unfortunately, last year they were down with some rink issues. The rink lost its refrigeration, but they're going to be having the event coming up in a couple of weeks, in first week in June. So I wish them the best of luck and happy to see the event live and thrive. And meanwhile, my whole focus will be here on Redline.
So first week in June, is there tickets available for this?
I'm sure there is. Typically, it's just, a lot of people show up. They have tickets. They have events going on all week. I'm not really sure in terms of what they have going on this week and stuff, but I plan on coming in as a spectator myself this year.
Did you play hockey for a long time?
Yeah, still do.
That's nice. Do you have do you play on the team, or do you just do it as on the side, just like kind of just
my local fire department has a team, Metro West Barn Burners. We made up of guys from around the area.
I like the name. That's awesome. So you have Redline gear, and you've been making the rounds. And you tell me about the equipment, or how do you go about? Like you go to my department. What is it that you do?
Yep. So most of all of our departments have an extractor in house. Where Redline shines and where we come in is once a year per NFPA, your gear is required to be advanced inspected and cleaned, and have an advanced cleaning done once a year. So most of our customers, I'd say 90% of them, are once a year visits. We come in, we start on the left side of the locker room and end on the right. We inspect everything: helmet, hood, jacket, pants, boots, gloves per member. So we come in, we put everything in a database. We put it all on the tablet. Everything gets inspected. And then once the gear is separated, finished its first inspection, it then goes into the truck. Inside the truck, we have aligners and shell extractor. So they get washed and dried in their respective process, come back out of the truck, and then they get put back together in a gear bag back in the member's locker same day. So our signature end product is a gear bag with boots on bottom, pants, jacket, hood and gloves tucked in the side, and helmet on top of that. Every bag is the exact same way, and that helps us keep a level of uniformity to the uniform inspection and the whole process. And then if there's any repairs done, we would take care of the repairs as well. Get to be done on that. So.
How advanced repairs? Are we talking about like minor rips or like
do full alterations? We could build an entire set of fire gear. We have everything to do any type of repairs. Most common repairs are relatively small and easy. A hole here, a patch there, that kind of thing, or new Velcro, new trim, new reflective trim on it. But there's really not a limit in terms of what we can do for repairs. We'd bring it back to manufacturer spec. So if it requires us to rebuild, the moisture barrier, we could.
And that's done obviously off-site, correct? At your facility, or is that done in the trucks?
Depends on the location. Some of our franchises have mobile repair units as well as the trucks. So these are big trailers that will come behind the truck and have a full sewing shop attached to them, and they're doing the repairs right on site. So, in Virginia, in Florida, in Colorado, in our Texas locations, they have mobile repair options. Here in Mass, we do a little bit of everything, and then we have a big corporate repair that does all of our stuff in-house. We have a much more robust repair room that if there's anything really complicated, it would come here to Massachusetts.
That's incredible. That is, you thought of it all.
I'm sure I haven't thought of it all, but I'm getting there.
So when you're cleaning the gear and you have it in your specialty truck, what is it like? You have your patent there,
Yep.
and you kind of hinted on it. It was like a washing machine on a truck. Like,
Yep.
what is it like? How is it special? How is it so efficient that it's doing this so quickly?
Yep. So, inside the truck, I say a washing machine as kind of dumbing it down a little bit, but it is a pretty well engineered truck where there's on board it's a 70,000 watt generator powered by a PTO that feeds 6 machines. We have 2 70-pound extractors. We have a tumble dryer. We have 2 drying cabinets that are heated drying cabinets for the outer shells. We have an ultrasonic tank for helmets, boots, hand tools, some of the hard items. And then we have a whole wastewater treatment processing plant on board. We have a freshwater treatment plant on board. And we also have it works in the sense of a flow, is all connected, all done together. There's also on truck, there's hot water heaters. There's a lot going on into a truck. So certainly we can get you guys a bunch of footage of some of our trucks and stuff like that, so you can use them as you see fit. But they're pretty incredible trucks. So most of them are all set up the exact same, and even this one sitting right behind me is actually owned by the state of Massachusetts. That's on the state hazmat team. So that's the exact same trucks, just branded as state, and it's a state truck. But all of our franchise trucks are all the exact same. Every one of them is the exact same, a full, complete process. You walk inside the back of the room, it's a state-of-the-art commercial laundry facility.
Wow. And you came up with this just because, like, one day your chief just said, "We got to send your gear out for cleaning."
Yep. And I wasn't happy when he said it's going to be gone for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because that's usually the case. It's usually gone for a while, and at a lot of departments can't afford to have 2 sets of gear.
Yep.
So they're lucky to sometimes just to have one complete set without it being mismatched.
Well, that was the issue. I have 2 sets of gear, but my secondary set had a big hole in the crotch that still needed to be fixed, and that wasn't even done in time yet. So all of a sudden, I had 2 sets of decommissioned gear, and then my primary set of gear had some contaminants from an incident, and it needed to be professionally cleaned. And I was left with just going to the gear room to find whatever fits me at that time.
Yeah.
Whatever
So you mentioned the gear bags. Did they provide their own gear bags, or do you provide bags?
We provide bags at the end of the service. The gear is in a bag out the door.
What kind of bag is that? Is it just a regular plastic bag, or is this an actual canvas type of bag?
Yeah, it's like a lightweight, like sized canvas bag that's designed. It's just kind of like what you'd get at the when you go to like the store and you buy like the upgraded bags, right?
Sure.
For shopping, stuff like that. But
Gotcha.
it fits well because it works in a very condensed bag, and it allows the gear to breathe to prevent mold and stuff. One of the common mistakes people do is put gear in bags and put it away and zip it everything all wet, and then you end up getting mold issues and everything else. So
yeah, that's why I was sort of trying to figure out how was you going to make it breathe and let it actually dry out and whatever it needs else to do. So you come in, how long does it usually take for, like, I mean, is there a certain time frame, like depending obviously from what department their size is, but what's the usual day? Is it an 8-hour day for you guys?
yeah, a typical 8-hour day is anywhere from 24 to 30 sets of gear, nice and easy in a day. And the way it would work is we'll take in the first 6 sets of gear, we inspect them, separate them all out, get everything done, and then those go into the wash. So it's about an hour to inspect them, and then they go into the wash. It's an hour wash process, and then they go to the dryer, which is about another hour, and then they come out. So we put them back together. So in total, the gear's out of service about 3 to 4 hours. But what we do is we start stacking them. So each step of the process is another 6 sets of gear.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end of the day, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we have 24, 30 sets of gear that's done, put together, dried, back in bags, ready to go.
How do you inspect them? What do you, obviously there's NFPA specifications for inspections of gear. What is it that you're looking for?
So we have a 25-point inspection checklist that the guys are doing on the tablet. They're checking everything from the Velcro enclosures to make sure that the stitching is still there, it's not pulling apart. They're checking the reflective trim. They're checking to make sure any holes. They're looking to make sure none of the seams are pulling away. There's a long list, and then they added an additional check in terms of moisture barriers. They're checking seam tape. They're checking for any kind of like our EMT language, right? That DCAT BTLS world, right? Where we're looking for any burns, we're looking for any cuts, we're looking for anything outside of normal conditions on the gear that we're going to document. And then we also will hydro test the moisture barriers, and we have hydro testers on the truck, and we'll test the moisture barriers to make sure there's no leaks in the seam, there's no holes found that's going to allow a guy to get steam burned. So that's part of the test as well.
For people who aren't familiar, how do you do your hydro test? What is it exactly doing?
So hydro test is when you're pulling the moisture barrier inside out, and you're putting a cup of water on the moisture barrier itself, and you're putting a 1 psi of water pressure behind it, looking to find any leaks. So the idea behind that is no leaks, no water. So your hydro test is designed to test your moisture barrier that's doing what it's supposed to do, and not going to get you soaked in a fire and ultimately cause steam burns or some other problem.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's truly amazing that you have all this going on in one truck. And what is the complement for your staff on one truck when they're coming to a department?
Two guys.
Two guys.
Two guys, an 8-hour day. Sometimes we'll have 3 on it. You know.
Wow. That's really impressive, Mike. Now, you obviously have a fine, well-oiled machine, which apparently you figured out how to do very well at FDIC.
Yeah.
Tell me about FDIC, because it was like we were all talking, like it was like the talk of the town during FDIC that you washed, and we talked about this earlier, 792 pieces of gear.
Spot on.
And that was a lot of moving parts. Not only just cleaning it, but like organizing it and getting it staged, cleaning, and then reorganized into the rightful owners. That's nothing short of a miracle and like some kind of magic spell that you waved your wand and got it all done. Like, how did you accomplish that?
Yeah. So I'm assuming you were either taking classes or an instructor, right?
I was taking classes. I didn't get my gear cleaned because I think I missed the boat on it. But my partner who I was with, he got his stuff cleaned.
Nice. Awesome. Perfect. So the way FDIC came about was we work closely with the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. And for years, I've been pitching this idea to FDIC saying, why don't we just clean gear? Why don't we clean gear? And FDIC's to the sales office side of things, well, that's a big exposure. It's going to be a lot of value. We're going to have to charge you for it. As a small company, I don't have the resources to do that, right? Pay for what they're looking to charge us to do that. And you're going to charge me to clean gear. That's kind of weird. That's kind of what we do for business. But through our partnership with the Cancer Support Network, FDIC reached out to them and said, hey, listen, we have this problem. We have a lot of hotels complaining about the gear smelling, to the point where last year they were charging people cleaning fees in the hotels. People were losing their security deposits for hotels because the gear.
Oh, wow.
So, this obviously firefighter health is the top priority, but aside from that, there's a lot of logistics that directly affect FDIC, i.e. the hotels, the airlines, the Ubers, the vans. None of them want to touch the gear because the stuff stinks so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So FDIC said to Cancer Support Network, hey, what would it take for you guys to store the gear? We just want to store it just so it's not going back to hotels. We just got to figure out a way to store the gear and get it out to the guys in the morning so they come pick up their gear. And then after they take their class, they're good to go, drop the gear back off in storage. That evolved into, and they were going to do that with a couple guys. And then that evolved into Cancer Support Network saying, well, have you reached out to Redline? Why not offer to clean the gear too? So then we threw another wrench in the mix and clean it. So then they got on the phone and said, could you do this? So Chief Rhodes, calls me and says, hey, here's what we have. There's about 1,200 people that take part in this program now. Not all of them are going to get their gear clean, but we have to be prepared to handle that. What would it take for you to clean 1,200 sets of gear? I said, well, I need 6 trucks. I need to bring a staff of about 75 people with me. And, I need all the water I can get and the logistics. Okay, so he obviously said, sure, let's do that. But then to your point about the logistics, then the next part was, all right, now it's more than just cleaning. Now it's all the classes, everything else. So for 2 or 3 months leading up to FDIC, we had a logistics call every week. And what we would do is say, all right, there's 27 classes or however many classes there was. These guys are leaving as early as 4 a.m. in some spots, and they're getting on the bus. Their gear has to be put out on the curb, ready to go for them. And then they come in, they drop the gear off, and here's the class section. So then we started managing that. And what it turned into was every single day, we got there on Saturday, and then every day we put the gear out at 4 a.m. Showed up at 4 a.m., started getting the gear out based off the first class that was going out the door. And we put it all in organized ways, so it was all by class. And then people would just come and pick up their gear. They were off. They had their bag tags were on their gear. We knew what class they're going to. And we actually were able to tell you who was on the bus based on the gear, which was funny because we got it down to such a good system that we saw 2 bags of gear bags sitting there. and they thought the guys forgot them. Well, they call over the bus and said, "Hey, these two guys don't have gear." It turned out they were actually too hungover and didn't even make the class. So we had it really dialed in, and we did that every morning. And then on the last day, after all the hot work classes were done on Wednesday, the gear came to us and we started cleaning it. So we had an option of gear if they just wanted it stored or if they wanted it cleaned. So most everybody elected the cleaning option, and then we started cleaning. So we had a total of 6 trucks, a repair unit, 2 support vehicles, and a box truck for additional storage of gear. And then we had 75 personnel on site at FDIC.
Wow.
And we just started cleaning it. Each truck took a bunch of gear, and then once they were done, guys would get a text message, "Yep, your gear's all set, ready for pickup." And we prioritized the cleaning based off what day they were leaving. So if they said they were leaving Thursday, their gear was ready Wednesday night. And we prioritized it that way, and we got through all 792 sets of gear is what we cleaned. But what was more important out of the entire show, I think, which even I'd even argue that this was even questionable at best. We only lost questionably 1 hood, which I bought the guy a new hood, and he says he had the hood. I don't know, whatever. I wasn't fighting him about it, so I bought him a hood. But that's pretty impressive considering each set of gear has over 10 pieces in it, between 2 boots, 2 gloves, 2 liners, 2 outer shells, a helmet, and 792 sets of gear, and nobody missed a class, nothing was lost, and everybody was where they needed to be. And what we did as a team is we defied, what the industry said couldn't be done. So after we did that, Chief Rhodes was actually like, "Mike, I got to be honest with you. Prior to this, this was so much of a passion because we got so many people saying, 'Hey, we're taking all these great classes, but the gear smells so bad and everything.'" And he's like, "We can't have a health and safety program that's telling someone to clean the gear and all this cancer problem. Meanwhile, we're like, come to FDIC and make your hotel room smell awful and leaving a stinky impression that lasts." So they were like, we were so passionate about this program that we were prepared for the fallout and the problems that would come of a first time program. They're like, we actually had a letter pre-drafted that what we would say in the event when you guys fail or someone missed their class or a set of gear got lost. And he's like, I'm happy to let you know that letter never saw the light of day. So on top of that, he ended up becoming such a champion of us that next year we want to have a cancer symposium inside of FDIC where we actually we work with our nonprofits to teach cancer prevention, techniques and trade. We teach why clean gear matters. We teach, Firefighter Cancer Support Network, all the stuff they offer, or our partners at Detect Together, and early steps to detection, and things people could do to properly decon better. And, there's obviously a big, heavy need for it, but we're going to center that around gear cleaning. So
that's a great idea.
Gear cleaning part of it was the first time that they said we could pull it off. And next year, they already gave us the space for 10 trucks. They said next year we want 10 trucks, 2 repair units, and I'll probably have over 100 personnel there. And we're going for our goal is 100% compliance next year to try and really drive in 100% of the people who take these classes have the opportunity to have their gear cleaned and ready for them and stuff. That 100% compliance is something I'm really big on because in my mind as an ISP, we're the only one who can offer 100% compliance. And what I mean by that is we could come out to your fire department and we start on the left and end on the right, and we're cleaning every single set of gear in between. And unless you're on site, just literally checking off a roster saying, yep, every single set was done, there's no way you could ever do that because if you have to send your gear out, you can only clean or inspect what was sent to you.
Yeah.
So they're not going to send out gear that's 2 days old because this just came from the factory. So why are we going to waste money to have this sent out and be gone for a couple of weeks? And likewise, they're also not going to send out gear that's 20 years old because it's going to be old, outdated, expired, and have too many issues that they don't want to fix. Well, at the end of the day, someone's still wearing that gear. Whether it's brand new gear or really old gear, we clean it, we inspect it, we treat it all the same. And our goal is 100% compliance at every fire department we go to. That's the same goal I'm going to bring to FDIC next year. But it really highlighted to the industry how important it is, how necessary it is, but also how simple it can be done to do what's equivalent to a major city number of firefighters in 2 days at a trade show.
Yeah, that's just so incredible of just dedicating that much time and attention to detail to know how important it is, not only just your company, but for the whole program of FDIC and to Chief Rhodes and to all the guys and girls that are putting in the work and going to this training and even just departments having this trust in a complete stranger to say, yeah, we're going to give you our thousands of dollars worth of gear and we expect it back complete, not only cleaned, but complete. We want our liners, we want our hoods, we want our gloves. And that's a lot of trust.
Yeah. And we also put all that gear back together too. So not only, so there's a whole another degree of labor, just breaking it apart gear and putting it back together. Cause there's a lot of snaps and work involved in putting one set of gear back together.
Man, my thumbs would be tired trying to snap all those together for sure.
The carpal tunnel was real. Everyone was walking around like
So you didn't see any of FD then?
Yeah, we were working quite a bit. So I was surprised to see the crews got it done a day early, but that speak to the teamwork and the environment. It was something to be seen. And what was really kind of cool is seeing the franchise. Obviously, I had the idea of how we're going to manage all this gear, and I had one of my full-time guys was assigned to logistics, and Colin just absolutely crushed it. And that's all he did was the logistics on it. But what was interesting is seeing franchises from all across the country come together, and they park their trucks right next to each other. They set up water the exact same way, and some of these guys had never met each other, and yet literally they started working exactly the same way. And I chalked it up to that Dunkin' Donuts worker who's going to go down the street and knows how to make a cup of coffee the exact same way. Well, it wasn't half hour in, and all of a sudden there was like all the wheels are turning, the system was up around. As soon as we said clean, it was all the trucks are hooked up, everyone was doing their job, everyone knew exactly what they were doing, and then extra help was able to fill in and work with every other truck.
I didn't even realize that, because at first, actually, I never knew you were a franchise before really looking into your company. And then second, I had no idea that until you just said that all those trucks, I thought it was just one state that they came from. I didn't realize that
they came from all across. We said trucks from Massachusetts, Colorado, Texas, Virginia, Illinois, and New Jersey were there representing our trucks. So we had 6 trucks were all from different areas.
That is incredible. Yeah. And complete strangers all coming in for one mission and for one company and getting that done. That is so cool.
And meanwhile, from a company perspective, what it did was fantastic, because all these guys, like, you always want to have the corporate events where guys get to know each other, have that team building experience, right? And some corporate companies will pay a lot of money for those type of team building experiences. Well, what we did is we were able to build that team building experience by building on our mission and bringing on the largest trade show, fire trade show in the country, and saying, yeah, we can do that. And when, meanwhile, the whole industry says it couldn't be done, we did it as a team.
That's incredible. Now,
I was very proud of them for that.
Did you guys, at the end, get to have any time to just be able to bask in the glory of that, like have dinner together? Because again, you just had a couple of states all come together under one company and complete such an amazing mission. Yeah. Did you guys actually have a celebratory dinner?
We did. So Friday night we went out to dinner. We invited everybody, all the 75 Redline people, plus we also invited our FDIC partners, Chief Rhodes and people, and we also invited our 2 nonprofits that we work very closely with, Cancer Support Network and Detect Together. So we invited both those guys. So we had 120 people for dinner or so. And we gave, also that night, we also gave away $20,000 to those charities as well, because we had a celebratory dinner, and we said, well, our mission's not complete. So on top of working and doing all that, we gave away another $20,000 to those 2 nonprofits. So
that's amazing.
It was nice and well received. Now I think that'll be the new tradition after FDIC is on Friday night. We'll go out and really celebrate as a team for not only what we did at the show, but what we did all throughout the whole year. That's the only time all the franchises will all be together.
That's impressive. I saw the setup. You guys were set up outside Lucas Oil Stadium. I walked past it. I saw guys on the radio talking to each other, communicating. I mean, you guys are just like, it was like an ant farm. You guys just everybody's just doing something. Everyone's got a mission. Everyone's got a goal and moving fast. And I was just standing there. I was hoping to catch you, and so I just happened to just watch all the guys working, and it was just so cool to see everybody, just all the wheels in motion. Everybody had a role. The team was working. It was, like I said, it was a well-oiled machine.
Appreciate that.
And it was cool to watch everybody just work, and everybody was in the zone too. Like I was really just standing there, and I was like that. Like one person's his head didn't even pick up. He just had his responsibility, and there was no stopping him. It was really neat to see.
Yep, that's a perfect description actually of what the week was. It was, we got a mission, we got a job to do. Let's get it done. So
Yeah.
everybody had their roles. We had full comm systems in place. We had everything thought of. The only thing I didn't think of, and I got in trouble for that, was pizza. I need to make sure I had plenty of food for these guys. All of a sudden they're like, "We're hungry." I'm like, "Shit, I didn't think about that." The next day I made sure that lots of pizza, lots of food was there.
Yeah, that's it's like you're feeding a small army, like,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
didn't
constantly, like
think
you said,
about
they're
that.
constantly moving. That's a lot. Does it get
Yep.
hot in there too? Do you have a well ventilated system in your trucks? Because you got your dryers going on. So does it get hot in those trucks?
Yeah. I mean, there is ventilation, there's fans and stuff in there. For the most part, you're loading the machines, and then you're coming off the truck. Most of the work you're doing off the truck. You kind of, once you load the machine, you load it and you're walking away for an hour. Most of the work is done inside the firehouse, so we're not really in the truck all that often. But they do get hot in there. I mean, we have ventilation and fans, but like our Texas truck or our Florida truck and stuff like that, those trucks, inside of those trucks will be 100 degrees all day.
Yeah. So so you got fans and everything else. You said they're outside the truck and doing a thing. Now, when you're cleaning gear, what type of soap is it? Is there a specific type that, like, usually there's just
Yep.
a certain kind of detergent that's supposed to be used. What kind of detergent do you guys use?
Yep. So I really wasn't happy with typical answer, right? I wasn't really happy with the other stuff that's on the market. So I worked with a chemist for a year, and we actually have our own Redline deep stain degreaser, which I found a lot of soaps on the market to advertise to fire service and might not be able to even pass a test, let alone handle what we need to do. So, we're regulated by UL. So under the UL test, we have to, as an ISP, have to test for biologicals, VOCs, and metals. So those three different categories, and they rate you and they score you how they do on that. So there's some soaps on the market that couldn't even pass that test in terms of how well they cleaned, but they were advertised towards firefighters. There's other soaps that do some areas well, but not as great. And then there's some things that people don't see, soap companies, because they don't know what we run into in the industry. For instance, diesel and grease. There wasn't a soap on the market that really had a good degreasing component to it as well as a laundry, because as you know, diesel is probably some of the worst stuff we deal with, because it just gets on the gear and it just lingers. And it's not uncommon to go to a tractor trailer truck roller or something and have just diesel pouring down your leg,
Yeah.
So I wanted to come up with a soap that was a little bit better. So we did build and fabricate and worked with a chemist for a year to say, here's the test, here's the standard that we have to fall into, and here's all the additional stuff I wanted to do, i.e. the diesels and the greases that they don't test for.
Wow.
So that was the soap we use.
You guys really thought this through. Like I said, like, it's really impressive what you've come up with and that you continue to develop. And I love that you even have your own line of soap, because the other stuff wasn't working. Now, you mentioned before for the helmets, you have like a sonic cleaning method.
Yep.
What is that?
So we have an ultrasonic tank that we could dunk helmets in, and the nice thing about that is you don't have to take any helmets apart. You don't touch a face peel. It could be a gold leaf on the shield, and it's just going to get dunked in an ultrasonic tank, and it uses basically a really 80-gallon Julie cleaner, right? So you could put something as fine as a diamond ring in there, or something as rugged as a fire helmet in there, and it's going to clean it the same way. Very soft cleaning, no scrubbing involved. The results are unbelievable. I mean, you'll see on some of our social media. I mean, we have TikTok videos of a helmet getting half cleaned that have 4 or 5 million views, because people are like, it's a very controversial topic.
Yes, it is.
But then at the same time, it also shows the power of the machine. But I actually appreciate the controversy behind it, because being a 22-year firefighter, I understand my leather was just as burnt up and cooked, and I took a lot of pride into it. And then culture started changing, where I realized for what? What am I doing that for? And actually, the day I, when I started diving into all this from the cancer side of things, when my son took my helmet and put it on his head, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, don't touch that. And then I was like, if I don't even want my son touching that, why am I doing that? So, now I I actually joke around the firehouse. I'm like, I get tell the guys, I'm like, if I could put a coat of turtle wax on this thing, I would make this thing bright and shiny. Obviously, that's the extreme example, but we do the helmets, and I tell people, skin cancer, especially on the foreband, the sweatband, is one of the leading causes of spots for cancer in a firefighter. It's like that sweatband is going right up against your skin every day.
Yeah.
So the videos are controversial because some people are like, "How dare you clean my helmet?" But where you see the tide changing in the fire culture is, when I first started this business, people were all over me. You guys are cleaning helmets, and hey, it's part of your PPE. It's what we're doing. But at the same time, if we went to a department and someone had their leather and really didn't want to clean, I'm not going to fight you on it. That's fine,
Sure.
But from a health and safety perspective, if it's department owned, we tell them clean everything because they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
And so
no, you nailed it. Like I was just gonna say, like the fact that you just said about your kid, you didn't even want them touching it. When we do, like when we have these station visits that come in, or we do the PR of, okay, we're gonna get in our fire gear, and kids, what do they love to do? They love to hold the helmet, especially a leather. Yeah. They love to see the weight difference. But they're kids, and these 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, or 10-year-olds, they're prone to putting their fingers in their mouth. And so they're just touching the saturated. Exactly. As soon as they put it down, their fingers go in their mouth because they're kids. That's what they do. And all of a sudden, they just took all that nasty shit and put it right in their mouth. So you nailed it. Like, if I don't want my kid touching, I don't want somebody else's kid touching all that crap.
I had a guy, a chief, once call me, and I'm like, "Oh, chief, thanks for having us out here. What caused you to call us and get you out here? I just always like it here." I said, "Honestly, I got to tell you why. Because I was horrified because my gear was in the back of my car. It was Halloween. My kid was a football player, and he wanted to look like a football player, and he didn't have any eye black, so he went to my helmet and smudged his helmet and smudged it all over his face. And all of a sudden, I just realized all the cancer talk I had, it just came flashing in my head. He's like, I was horrified that my kid was able to use war paint for his Halloween costume, but meanwhile, he was wiping soot all over his face.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's what we do, right? How many times do you see a guy coming out of a job has war paint all over him and stuff? It's like, stop.
Wow, that's it's a meaningful story, though. I mean, that's to the point of, like, we got to be better about making sure that we're cleaning our stuff and making sure that it's not getting on our children and other people's children. I mean, it's just so now more than ever, because the data is out there, the science is out there. And a gentleman I had on, Ash Shapiro, he does a great, from Capital City Industries. He makes helmets for a living, right? I mean, he's on Hartford, Connecticut, but he makes these wonderful helmets. And he does a great informational video of deconning your helmet for if you're at home or if you're at the station, a quick way to be able to do it. And he, like you said, it's a very hot topic, and some people get in these battles, and he shows how, just to soak it and clean it. He didn't clean the outside, but he dunked it, but people like lost their mind because he didn't scrub the outside clean. And again, it's personal preference. For him, he's cleaning the interior of his helmet. Right. He's making sure, right, that it is clean for him. And I don't know, like, I imagine he's probably not letting everybody just grab his helmet and touch it and play with it, because this is our own personal property, and we're very protective of that. But that generated a lot of mixed reviews, because people were like getting on him because he didn't scrub the outside of his helmet clean. Now, mind you, again, he dunked the whole thing, but people lost their minds on it. But I love, like, the machine that you have. It helps to take care of all of it. You're not just taking the interior and cleaning it. You're dunking that whole thing, like you said, in a huge jewelry cleaning box, and you're putting that into the system and cleaning that whole environment. It's really, really neat. I was watching your videos, and I think it's fantastic.
The helmets are a very interesting topic, and it's wild to see a helmet video and look at all the social media comments, because you have the social media warriors who are just like you said, how dare you do that, blah, blah, blah. And then for every one negative comment you have other guys that are the extreme, like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. Guy's like, yeah, great, I'll make sure I attend your funeral, or I'll take care of your kids when you're gone. Like, whoa, buddy, relax, But, like, they get passionate about it, and on both sides of the coin, you see the people that are really starting to understand it, and where you're seeing the shift is when you go to the fire academy now. These recruits are coming out up here, they're cleaning the gear right after they do a job. The guys that are a year on the job, they're coming out as soon as they go to a fire. It's like, all right, maybe they're, I don't even know if it's possible to be the extreme, but they're like, oh, well, I saw a little smoke, I need my gear cleaned, but but I love it. I love it because they're taking pride in what they're doing. They're taking pride in their gear, and you're seeing that change coming from the new recruits coming out of the academy, and they're making the older salty guys, look bad when all of a sudden everything's squared away. And I always make the statement, say, we have the cleanest fire trucks or fire trucks period in the city on any given day, every day of the year. And yet, like in the town I work in, Sudbury is a very affluent community. If someone walks in that house with a bunch of dirty gear, they're walking on someone's $10,000 rug. You think the person's really going to be happy with you when you just left boot prints all over their rug? Like, come on, like, let alone the health aspects of it. But it's like, take pride in your job. Why your gear, the stuff that's protecting you, is not the most best piece of equipment you have on your truck, the most taken care of piece of equipment you have on your truck. It should be more of a priority than waxing the truck for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you make a really, really good point. And when you talked about like even the new kids coming into the academy and they're talking about immediately getting their gear cleaned, for us at New Hampshire, when we have live burn days for them, when they're doing the flashover simulator, it's all the expectations are laid out for them. As soon as you're done, you're now going to rehab. And rehab is taking all that gear off. It's going to the extractor, and then they're going back to the dorms, and they're all taking showers, and they're all getting in new clothes. So they're not sitting around just hanging out in their saturated gear and clothes. They're immediately now going to decon, and it comes out like clockwork. So we're trying to be more proficient.
And those kind of things, those changes in training, change their whole career path, because now it's just in their mindset. All right, we had a fire, let's go clean.
Yep.
It's not, all right, we had a fire, let's go celebrate. And no, next part of the job,
Yep. And I love the fact, like, it's just, again, the science and data, everything's out there. The fact that you have your gear cleaning company, and then you have like Flame Decon, you have Ignite Decon, that understand that we need to be better and clean ourselves. At least there's a quick way for us to decon our faces and our necks and our armpits and everywhere else when we have those wipes on scene. And then we can go back and we can take showers with the decon material. And then we have people like you that come up to our departments and make sure that it's all ready to use again, cleaned quickly, efficiently, and inspected and repaired. Dude, that's amazing.
That's, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm never going to be a doctor. I'm never going to, I have no interest in being a doctor. And if I can help towards the cancer problem by providing clean gear, great. I did my part, and Ed Kelly told me when I started the job, he said, make sure you leave this job better than when you found it, right? So if I can leave the fire department better when I found it by making clean gear a very normal process, I did my job.
Amen, brother. I love that. Now, did you take any classes on specific cleaning? Again, you're going to be teaching a symposium, you said at FDIC on gear cleaning. Did you take a class on how to get this done? Was there a specific NFPA requirement or any other kind of manufacturer training? How did you get so proficient in it?
Well, there is a bunch of manufacturer trainings, but there also is a UL certification. But timing of how I started the business really kind of threw a wrench in the mix because of COVID. So 2020, I cleaned my first set of gear, and then COVID hit. All the factory training, all that stuff was all done. Nobody was doing any of that, And so I kind of had to start, learning and trying to figure out the best ways. And then I worked with UL to really dial in that testing. I did the testing 4 different times because I was getting like mediocre test results, a couple even failed test results. So I'm like, I want to make sure this is done properly. So, I kept working with them and refining the process, getting better at it, and obviously learning as I go. So, I work with all the manufacturers really closely now, but when I was starting the business, it was very much I'll figure it out,
Now, is there any, I know it sounds weird to even ask, but do you have a warranty or guarantee for something? Do you ever have anybody go say, I don't like how you did this, or it still stinks, or,
Yeah. Of course. So, I mean, obviously, you get those kind of responses, and the answer is always, yeah, no problem. Well, happy to do it again for you. Work with you on it. 'Cause, some of the odors and stuff you get in there do require multiple washes,
Do you know that going into it? If you get they had a really stinky, dirty job, just sticky material, and you see that gear, do you know it's going to be a one-wash job, or do you know you're going to have to do it for a couple times?
It depends how long. Yes, the answer is yes. I do know how long. I could tell that pretty much ahead of time. But the longer guys like yours sit before they do anything about it, the harder it is to clean. So if it's sitting in there and it's been sitting a week and all dried out and it's got diesel and stuff all over it before they call me, it's gonna be a lot harder. As if they, when it's still wet off the body, I can get that in one wash.
Sure. And do you have a lot of fire conferences that reach out to you for helping when they have like these, not just FDIC, but man, there's so many conferences that pop up now, and they do a lot of live burn training as well. Do you have a lot of them reaching out looking for services?
Not before FDIC. FDIC was the first one that did, because I don't think they really knew what. But now after FDIC people saw they did, we sort of have a few throughout the country that are reaching out, and whether or not we can handle them or not, that's a different discussion, because what it takes to put together just that one stop. I mean, us as a company, we probably could do training events all over the whole country, but that one we want to do free. To bring that many resources together, I don't know if we could do that. How many times a year we could do that?
Yeah,
but,
no, it just would make sense, for anybody who's looking for, because some of the training conferences are obviously not the level that of attendances of like for FDIC, but sometimes you get like 30 people there or 60 people. Yes. So now it's like, now it's easy for you. You already did 792 sets of gear.
Easy.
What's 60 sets of gear?
Right, exactly. So we do have a lot of all of our local branches are working with their local shows now, and we have a few of those small local or local based shows popping up, whether it be with like a group like the Fools, or groups that do some hot work training stuff. They're getting involved with them pretty good.
Yeah. Now, where are you going to be anywhere promoting Redline? Is there any other kind of vendor conferences or anything else that you go? Or are you just like flat out busy doing this, or do you go and travel promoting Redline?
No, so we do a number of local shows all over the whole country. We have trade shows all over the country. We do a lot on social media in terms of promotion there. And then our biggest one was word of mouth. For every one job we complete, we end up booking 2 more after that, because the fire chiefs talk to the neighboring departments and stuff like that. But as far as shows go, the only real big national show we do is FDIC. We're looking at a couple others right now, but after that, it's all about local shows. I know in a couple weeks we have we do a lot of shows with the union as well. So we're going to be at the PFFM convention at the DCU Center. We have a couple other conventions we're going to be doing.
Now, do you offer any kind of training as well? You have the cleaning side of it, but since you're so proficient in the requirements and the ins and outs of cleaning and decon, do you ever get any requests to go into departments and educate them on how to properly remove gear and how to properly decon it, wash it, and everything else?
Yep. So we have a number of our departments that are contracted with us that I'm happy to do those kind of education things like that for them for free, where it's like, I want you to, after a car fire, I don't want you calling me. I want to be there. I want to be there when the whole department's there, but at the same time, I want you cleaning your gear right? So I show them how we clean it, how they could clean it the same way, in their station, and what they could do there. So we do that with a lot of our contracted departments. It's very simple for me to give a 30-minute education, class on how to properly do this.
I love it. That's great. Because there's only certain ways out there, especially for us, like using extractors, so that you have to have a certain amount of sets of gear in there. Some people have dummy sets that they put in an extractor with their other gear in there, because you can't just have one set. And then some people know that, some people don't. There's all these little ins and outs.
The biggest mistake I find is people don't realize how important it is to wash your liners and shells separately. It happens everywhere, whether it be a laziness thing, whether it be an education thing, I'm not sure. But I tell guys, I'm like, the outer shell is nasty. When you wash it, it's black. Why do you want to mix that with the liner that's up against your skin? That's like a sponge. That liner absorbs everything. It's cloth. It's a absorbent fabric.
Yeah.
So don't wash them, separate them. Wash them separate. Rinse the machine in between. Little things like that. I was talking to one firehouse where we bought gear cleaning equipment through my nonprofit. And they thought I was there servicing the machines. And they're like, oh, well, I was washing my dog's bed, and the bed came out all black afterwards. All right. Stop. There's too much wrong with that sentence,
You're probably like, wait a minute, where's the camera? There's no way this is serious right now.
Oh, the chief was embarrassed because, obviously I helped buy the equipment. But it did highlight part of the problem, right? Guys need to rinse machines. Guys need to not wash their dog's bed. These are professional machines designed to do one function.
You make a good point right there. Actually, clean the machines. Is that something that can be done in-house, or do you need a tech to come in and actually
No,
clean them out?
all the machines should have a sanitizing cycle where it's an empty cycle. They just run on their own and should be able to clean themselves. It's just a programming function, but it's
Okay.
just something that guys need to get in the habit of doing. After you run the machine, run an empty load and
Just run an empty load.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you need, say I'm just doing my gear and I'm doing I've separated my shell and my liner.
Yeah.
Do I need more than just my liner? Or do I need other sets of gear? Because I've heard back and forth, like I can just wash my one set, or do you need, because usually it's like I've heard it's max of 3. You're only allowed to have 3 sets of gear in an extractor.
So each extractor is different. My extractors are much bigger, so they can handle a lot more gear. But in average firehouse, yeah, three is right. But to the point of why they want something different in there is because even something to agitate it, because if you just have a single one piece in there, there's not going to be anything that's rubbing against it, agitating it. So other gear inside a machine actually helps clean it because it's scrubbing against each other. So it's that agitation that you need. If you have a really small extractor, under a 10-pound extractor, then you'd want to wash, you can wash just one set because it's small enough and the drum's compact enough that you're going to get that agitation. If you have a bigger extractor, it certainly helps to throw extra stuff in there because you're going to agitate it better. And if you have that, what you called it as the dummy set, that's great because now you're dealing with a clean set that you know is only going to help the cleaning and agitation process a little bit.
I love that. That's great information. It's actually information that a lot of people don't have. So this is so important. It's so simple but very important. And because there's all these little things that little departments do here and there, but they never really explain the why. And the way you just broke that down about having that set in there, like a dummy set, like my department has, we have a dummy set and we put that in there with our gear so we can actually have it agitated. There's never the why. People are just like, hey, put this other set in there, and people are standing there and go, why do I only need to wash mine? Why do I need 2 more sets in here? So it's really great information. I really do appreciate that, what you bring to the table to the fire service. This is a huge help. It's a huge benefit to all of us. And I hope that more departments see this and use this valuable resource. It's incredible. All the things that you do, like it's one-stop shopping.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, definitely check out some of the photos because you'll see some of the eye-opening stuff that we see between what guys keep. We always try and tie it into the job, what guys keep in their pockets to how to clean gear, to how their helmets are coming out and stuff like that. You'll see a lot of that on our social media, and we'll send you guys a bunch of those photos so you can share.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like you said, it's very simple, but hopefully it's increases the health and safety of our guys, right? Because we got to do better than what we're doing right now.
100%. That's what it's about, is making sure we're being better than we were yesterday. And I again, it's everything that you're doing is fantastic work. I love that you also you're educating, not just cleaning, educating, getting everybody aware of what needs to go in and out of your gear. Actually, I meant to ask you, we'd love to keep crap in our pockets. When you're doing this stuff, have you ever had anybody, I'm sure it's happened, like there's wire cutters or, a window punch. How many times has that gone through your extractors?
Those stuff, we try and do a good job inspecting. Obviously we miss. What cracks me up is during the inspection is just what is stored in guys' gear. Like, I think I could write a book on that because you have everything from, the tiniest screwdriver sets. I'm like, if you're working with a level 1 Phillips head screwdriver, probably doesn't need to be in your gear or something, like obviously the tool wise. But even at that, I mean, people have all kinds of like collection stuff. People like little statues and toys that go in the pocket. We saw one set of gear had a roll of condoms in the gear. I'm like,
you never know.
Yeah, the one of the guys they posted that they did a caption this photo thing of pulling out. One of the guys was like, the gear helps the burning from the outside, and the condom helps the burning from the inside.
Oh, that's good. And, that's pretty funny.
That's I mean, the most random stuff. We found a Santa Claus hat in one. We found one guy had a large diameter reducer in his pocket, a 4-inch reducer in his pocket. I'm like, you never know when you're not gonna need that in a fire, so make sure you keep that reducer in there.
Oh, but, that's funny, man. Now, what is also? Do you have a price list on your website as well for all these services, or do you have to go call it for a consultation?
Just call, because obviously every department's different, travel time and stuff like that. But on average, pricing is anywhere between for $150 they're getting out the door to a department, and have that's per member. That's full helmet to hood, jacket, level pants, boots, gloves. It's a lot more affordable than people think, and it's a pretty simple process.
That's great. Mike, thank you so much. I really do appreciate all this information and everything you bring to the table to the fire service. You got a great company.
No problem. Appreciate having us on, and looking forward to hearing it and meeting with your members and hearing about the report and stuff like that. So that's
yes, sir. Anything that we missed that you wanted to bring up at all?
No, whatever we can do, we can appreciate it, and certainly appreciate you spreading the health and safety word.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you, Mike. Mike Matros of Redline is doing great things, and I am so happy to be able to finally meet up with him and talk with him. Make sure you are following his website, his social media. They're all over the place, and they've got it going on. They're doing great things. And like Mike just said, it's not as expensive as you think. And man, actually, it makes a lot of sense. Like you're doing so much of this work for us, and it's done so quickly. And you're already putting it back together. That's the thing too. I'm now just got off another tangent. Is some people really don't like having their gear put together. Some people are very specific about how they put their gear back together. Is there a request in there? Like, say there's certain people like I don't want anyone touching my gear. You can wash it, but I want to put it together because I want to make sure everything's right. Have you ever come across that?
I have not, but I would welcome that response with open arms. If someone was that meticulous about the gear, I would love that, because to me, that's always the analogy of, like, I would want to make sure my gear is put together that way and check it. But it's that whole pack your own parachute thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would love it if a guy had that much pride in his job and said, no, I want to put that back together. But for the most part, guys, it's the exact opposite. Guys are just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. All the snaps and twists and I don't want to do that, So,
oh, that's good. And, actually, before I end it, so we wear GemTour harnesses on our gear.
Yep.
Do you clean those?
So yes and no. We'll clean them to the manufacturer's recommendations, but some of the manufacturers have their own certain cleaning process, how they want them cleaned or not cleaned at all. They don't recommend it. So, some of those harnesses can be cleaned, and they can be, whether they're hand cleaned or ultrasonic cleaned, but most of them are not. We take them off before they're being machine washed. We wouldn't be running the GemTars in through the machine, just because they're bulky, heavy items. They can be hand cleaned and disinfected pretty.
Is that something you could do, like with the helmet, the Sonic Care? Could you do that with the GemTours?
Yep.
I like that. That's cool, because that would be a big game changer for us, I think. So I'm gonna have to present that to my department and see what they have to say. This is great. You got my wheels spinning, dude. I start talking to you, and all of a sudden these ideas start popping up in my head. I love it. So
on a mobile truck, no pun intended, right? On the wheels.
Right. Thank you so much, my friend. Everybody, make sure you do check out Redline Gear Cleaning. Again, social media, Instagram, Facebook, websites. They are on it. They proved how well they can operate at FDIC. They cleaned over 792 sets of gear and apparently only lost one hood. And that's still, the jury's still out on that one. So thank you all for tuning in. I always like to leave it too is if you guys are ever struggling for anything, mental health is super important, just like cancer is super important, that we're making sure that we're not making ourselves our own victims, and making sure we are cleaning our gear, making sure we're taking care of ourselves physically, but mentally we got to make sure we're on that as well. Next Rung is one of those people that help a lot. We have gear cleaning services. We have mental health services. And I always love to promote the guys from Next Rung, Blake Stennett, Charlie Brown. Those guys are doing great things. If you need help, they're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, the website. They are helping guys and girls get the help they need. So if you do need services, they are providing that for us. All you have to do is reach out. And if you know someone who's struggling and they don't know where to go, make sure you're helping them out. Make sure you're talking to them. And if you don't know where to go, reach out to me and I'll do my best to get the help that you need as well. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the C.A.N Report. I love you all. Stay safe. Mazel tov.